Hello everybody, this is Ron with Sandcar Services, and it's Saturday afternoon. It's cooling down, so I'm back out in the shop trying to get some work done. Wanted to discuss this S4 that came in. This S4 did not come in for a refresh. It came in to have an adjustment made to it in the differential area, and after looking at the magnet when the customer drained the oil, I told him it'd be a really good idea to pull it apart. Now, the primary reason why I'm shooting this is because this transaxle was just purchased and the seller said it had 3 trips. 1, 2, 3. Uno, dos, tres. Y'all know how I feel about buying transaxles that say they have 3 trips on them. You're just going to let this thing speak for itself. Now, I don't know how many trips it had on it. It's not up to me to say. I have no documentation on what was done. But I will tell you this. Had he driven this, put this in his car and driven this, he would have experienced a catastrophic malfunction soon after running it. May have been 1 weekend, may have been 2 weekends. Wasn't going to be long, and I'll tell you why. This is first gear. First gear has a dog plate on it, which means it's not a Gen 3 setup. See this thrust surface right here? It's melted on both sides of the transmission. Or transmission, on first gear, sorry about that. Look how nasty that thing is. Just absolutely melted. It's mushroomed and coned in so bad, I can't even get the bearing for the hub out of this thing. Now, if you want to get a better idea how bad it melted, here is the thrust washer that goes between it and the pinion assembly. These are hardened pieces of metal, people. That is some serious heat to do that to a thrust washer. So, let's go over all the things that are wrong in this transaxle. Forward bearing. Sounds like a tambourine. This forward bearing has so much play in it. Hear how noisy that is? Has so much play in it that the input shaft was actually moving back and forth when we pulled it back and forth. About 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in between those two categories. Pinion bearings, absolutely wiped out. Chatters everywhere, scratches, potholes. So both pinion bearings, inner and outer. See if I can get zoomed in better. Look at that. All right. Here's the kicker. Flange, well, no, it's actually not. These are side flanges, the flange drive, side covers, whatever you want to call them. But the actual bearings, which are for the differential, so the diff carrier bearings, are wiped out too, just like these. The races have all kinds of marks in them, so it needs those. That I don't change those very often. These are pretty robust, so to have these go bad, that's a red flag. The bearing that's on the shift drum is got chatter marks in it. You go to roll it and you can actually feel the balls popping in and out of grooves. So the shift drum bearing needs to be replaced. Somebody has been a naughty boy or girl on the shift, trying to shift while they're under load. Let me zoom out and then hit the zoom in. Look at the dogs on 4th gear. Absolutely knocked the corners off of these things. Right? And then 3rd gear, exact same way. Corners are just completely gone. So this will cause you to pop out of gear when you're under acceleration and under deceleration. Let me pop back out here. So almost every bearing in the transaxle is bad. 3 trips. The good thing is he's got a late model ring and pinion. Ring and pinion are in good condition. It's mainly bearing damage and shift mechanism damage and first gear. What's making this one a kicker is the fact that the actual dog face plates, the hub assembly, which is on here, these are G-force, and they're no longer manufactured. The slider plate with the dogs on it shift slider does not interchange between the hub on the G-Force and the hub on a Weddell Mendeola. And this hub has to be changed. You see those chatter marks right there? We call those speed bumps. I believe that's what Ian likes to call them. So if I put a bearing on this, it's going to make noise. It's probably going to wear prematurely. So the hub's got to be changed. But this hub is not interchangeable with a Weddell hub. So we're going to be doing a pretty big update on his transaxle form. We're going to change all 4 of his idler gears to Gen 3, which will have the Gen 3 dogs actually built onto them. So the gears are going to be wider. This is an S5 gear. So this is actually the E-Box version of the S4 I joke around about all the time. So this is a narrower gear. The actual gear that he's going to have is in a box over there. I'll show that when I go to put it together. But he'll have Gen 3 idler gears in this thing, which will be wider. And the best part about that is if he does any damage to his shift mechanism from this point forward, parts are going to be readily available because it's all going to be the newest, latest, and greatest. One of the other things I want to discuss real quick is the fact that if you look at the pictures of this when it was sitting outside on the hydraulic cart, to the untrained eye, it looked like a Gen 3, right? It had the aluminum shift levers, right? It had the 610 case, which is a Gen 3 case, but this is not a Gen 3 transaxle. This is a Gen 2 or Gen 1.5 that's been modified. There's a way that we can tell that. One is that if you look at the shift mechanism that sticks out, this is where the potentiometer that goes onto the cover actually goes into the transaxle. The Gen 3s have a female slot right here, and then the potentiometer actually has a shorter shelf. The potentiometer actually has what looks like a flathead screwdriver blade to it. The other thing too is if it says Mendeola on your faceplate and it has this high rise, this is not a Gen 3 cover. This is a Gen 1 through Gen 2 cover, and it doesn't interchange with the Gen 3 shift housing assembly. So if you have this on the back of your transaxle, pretty good chance that you may have a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 shift housing that's been updated. Now this one, they put longer pins in, so it's had some sort of a modification I got to go in and look at. And the reason I can tell is because they actually clearanced the housing on the inside for it. So just be careful out there when you're buying stuff, guys. Ron with Sandcar Services. Bye-bye.